Hey guys, this is John, and wow, we got paired down very far in this one. I was sitting there waiting. I was in both pools, the 3 and the 5 minute pools, and I was waiting for at least 3-4 minutes, which is highly unusual. So slim pickings today. This is not a good move against this move order, so I should take on d5. And a lot of people play e4 here, but I believe knight f3 is more accurate to discourage black from going e5. So I'm kind of surprised someone with this rating would go into this opening. But hey, stranger things have happened, right? So now I'm just going to play bishop d3. So the whole reason for those who are maybe new to chess watching this channel or are just wondering about knight f6, the whole reason that's not a good idea, I'm just going to take this pawn by the way, is that you want to be able to take back with a pawn on the on d5 should white capture on move 3. So I'll go back and show that after the game, but I'm going to go here. But yeah, knight f6 does not allow him to recapture with a pawn, is his big dilemma. Okay, now I can do some stuff like knight d5. Is knight d5 good? Or should I take on f6 first? Let's just go knight d5. I think it's just strong. This guy's playing really fast. I really want to take on g5 now. I was calculating this. So if he takes with the pawn, I take with the bishop. That's great for me. But the problem is if I take, he can take on d5. But then I can take here. So e takes d5. He takes on g5. Maybe queen h5 is good then. That looks really pretty nice for me. Whew. It's a tough call. I have such a good position. I kind of just want to play it safe. I really want to do this though. Knight takes g5. Knight takes d5. Pawn takes. H takes g5. Queen h5. It's like almost there. Not quite though. You know what? I'm just going to do it. Just because I think it's going to be instructive. Bishop g3 would have just won me a pawn clear. What? It's just going to do this? So now I'm just winning on f6, right? Okay, this is not a good decision. Oh, knight takes f6 was a lot better, by the way. I totally should have done that instead. I was just surprised that he went into this line. Okay, he resigned. But the line I was calculating... So in these situations... So let's talk a little bit about this pin. Okay, so this happens all the time in chess. You play a bishop out to the 5th rank. You're pinning your opponent's knight on the 6th rank. Or if you're black, you'd be playing a bishop out to the 4th rank, pinning your opponent's knight on the 3rd rank. And you're sitting there as black. You're trying to figure out what to do. Okay, so what I tell my students is that h6 or h3, if we're looking at it from black side, that move usually doesn't come with any huge consequences. And oftentimes it's just a good idea to throw that move in regardless of how you think white will play it, like whether they'll take or whether they'll retreat. Because most of the time they're going to retreat, like I did in this game, right? And just maintain the pin. Now, of course, g5 is the bigger decision. Do we want to advance g5? Now let's fast forward a move. When he did g5 here, this is a common decision that you face in these positions. Do I sack a piece for 2 pawns? Okay. And if you're thinking I'm going to give you a magic rule about when it's good, you're wrong. I'm not going to give you any magic rule because it has to be judged on a case-by-case basis. I believe most of the time it's not a good idea. I don't even want to guess like what percentage of the time it's good, what percentage of the time it's bad, but most of the time it's not good to sacrifice on g5. When you do sacrifice, usually you're sacrificing the knight, and you're trying to do exactly what I did in this game, like exploit the pin on the piece. Now, if there's a knight on this square too, after knight takes g5, you got to be aware that this is a possibility. It's a defensive possibility. Because it's like an in-between move. You open up the queen to assist in attacking g5, so that if white takes back, then black is taking here. And black hopes that they'll just be up a piece after this, by virtue of having inserted that knight takes d5 move. What I was intending to do here was play queen h5, attacking g5 and also setting up the queen h7 mate threat. And I used quite a bit of time to decide whether to go for this. I'm not sure it's sound actually, because he can play f5 in this position. Then I was trying to evaluate
Check.
here and then take. I have a perpetual if I want, but I mean, I definitely wouldn't want to take a perpetual against this guy. And I don't know. I mean, if he moves his queen to like e8 or c7 or something, I have bishop f6. So like, just to illustrate that.
Check.
Well, I guess bishop f6 would be especially good here because if he takes, I can't even just take his queen. So let's say instead, no, he should probably play queen takes d5, actually. Yeah, that's what he should do. Then, if I check on f6, he gives up the rook.
Check.
This is the type of position I wasn't sure about. Let's say he plays king g8. I mean, material-wise, I'm actually not doing too bad. But he's got the minors. I'm guessing white's still better here because it looks like I have some initiative. Maybe I can just take this pawn, or maybe I play rook d1 first. So I'm guessing I'm doing quite well here still, but I spent some time trying to figure that out. He could also perhaps play f6 doesn't work. He could play e4. What's up with e4? That might just be an inferior version though. Take f5. Take here again, or check first and then take on g5. So I'm curious, like, if this knight takes g5 move is justified. It's pretty unusual to make this move out of a d4 opening. As most of you guys know, this usually happens out of e4, e5 openings much more often. In fact, there's a really awesome game by Chigorin, Kale Chigorin, that I'll post in the comments because it's very applicable to this type of situation. It illustrates the idea of sacrificing. I think Chigorin did it on g4 in the game I'm thinking of. But anyways, let's check the engine and see what it says about this. Yeah, so it approves of knight takes g5. And if knight takes d5, take. Okay, let's say take, and queen h5. Yeah, so it does say this is essentially decisive for white. f5, check here. Wants me to give one more check.
Check.
Here. And now take on c6. Okay, so that introduces the threat of bishop c4. And I would assume if he takes on d3, okay, it's just saying bank this pawn. Let's say he plays king h7 as the computer's suggesting, and then lift our rook. And it's saying black is not going to survive this. Like if queen c4, yeah, I mean, one simple idea would be like taking on b7 and then bringing the rook in. Engine wants to do this first and then take. So I would assume, okay, it finds like a forced mate. Queen g5. I don't know, king goes somewhere. Say h8 like it's saying.
Check. Check.
And bring the rook in, yeah. Okay, so that's good to know. I spent the time probably not justified in doing this when I had such a good position already, but my minute paid off, and knight takes g5 was winning. So the other option was bishop g3, which should also give a huge edge, but I didn't want to go into that. Note that he can't do this because of the typical bishop h7 tactic, winning his queen. Just a couple brief comments about that opening. So this so-called Marshall defense, I think it's called, knight f6. You see this move a lot at lower levels. That's why I was surprised. This guy's decently rated and he played it. But the whole reason it's not good is like when white takes on d5, as happens very often in Queen's Gambit positions, black cannot take back with a pawn, meaning he's lost his foothold in the center. He can take back with the queen or knight, but those are not permanent enough. That's why e6 and c6 are the most popular moves here, because both allow black to recapture with a pawn, should white decide to take on d5. You want that solid foundation in the center. You want a pawn bedrock, not a knight that can be easily kicked away as soon as I organize e4. And I mentioned that knight f3, I think this is the most accurate move here. Like e4 is the move that almost everyone plays, but I believe after knight f6 and then knight c3, I think this move is actually not that bad for black. With the point being that after takes, queen takes d1, And regardless of how white takes, black can win the pawn back. Like if knight takes d1, then just knight takes e4. So let's say king takes, but then knight g4, and white has problems here and here. So I'll check this, but I'm fairly certain knight f3 is the move. Just delaying the whole e4 thing for one move and preventing him, discouraging him from playing e5. If he tries to play like bishop f5, preventing e4, there's a number of ways white can play it. I'm sure just something like knight c3 is good. There may be queen b3 in the air, because that's always a possibility when this light square bishop pokes its head out on f5. b7 becomes weak, so white should look at that move. It's also possible for white to fianchetto, go g3, bishop g2, again, eyeing b7. So lots of good options. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed that game. Quick little contest there. Oh yeah, and at the end, I totally should have played knight takes f6. That just basically mates or wins his queen, like king h8, queen h5 check, or king g7, knight h5, discovered attack on the queen. But like I said, I was so surprised that he went in for this line.
Check.
That I just instantly took with the bishop, and he resigned. But yeah, he could have played something like, you know, knight e7 or bishop e7 to try to struggle on for a few more moves. But okay, hope you guys enjoyed that one. And please leave me any feedback in the comments. Thanks for watching, guys.